Hello and welcome. I am Steve Clemons, editor-at-large of The Hill. We're really delighted to have you navigating the ver-textual world with us today. A few months ago, a typical day for many of us included a big mug of coffee, a school drop-off, a commute to the office, lots of work meetings, meals at restaurants, or for me, brainstorms at coffee shops, and a workout at the gym. Okay, a little bit of a fib there. And that was all we did as the day drew to a close. That world has now changed, everything except the big mug of coffee. And just about everyone, willing or not, has been shoved into a new digital everything. That kind of reality. While some of us have transitioned smoothly, for others the path forward is wobbly, it's frustrating, complicated, and very uneven. Digital literacy hasn't touched every corner of the country. In fact, there are neighborhoods, even in America, that lack the basic infrastructure to participate meaningfully in a digital ecosystem. What will it take to bridge these digital gaps, both geographic and experiential? And how do we set an inclusive and secure course for a safer and more accessible digital ecosystem that truly connects all of us and all of our stuff and all of our things? On today's program, we're going to examine the new priorities for policymakers and regulators and ask how they should approach the goals of coverage, of safety and security, of access, affordability, and the capacity of the system. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Nokia, for supporting this event and making this conversation possible. Before we get underway, a few housekeeping notes. You can tweet us at The Hill Events on Twitter using the hashtag #TheHillVirtuallyLive. I've tried to get them to go to THVL, but it's The Hill Virtually Live. Sorry, folks. We are broadcasting live and we'll be taking your questions throughout the program. And if you experience any trouble with a video, I'm told that refreshing the page should mostly fix the problem, or send us a letter later. Now let's dive in. Our first guest this afternoon is FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly. Since the coronavirus pandemic struck, the Federal Communications Commission role in keeping Americans connected has taken on a greater urgency. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you again. We've had some fun before. So let me get your take on this world we're in. We've talked for years. In fact, you and I talked a couple years ago about how we were moving from the analog world to the digital world, and it seemed like it was sort of happening at a big scale then, but not like now. Now everything is truly digital, even a lot of people who don't want to be there. So I'd love to get just a quick dashboard from you about what you're concerned about and what this new world's going to look like. And are we going to ever go back to analog?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. I think, what am I concerned about? I'm concerned about what everyone else is focused on. How do we make sure that everyone is connected? Every American that wants broadband has access. And today we have probably three problems. One is basic access. 20 million Americans don't have broadband as we defined it at the commission. About maybe 8 to 10 million don't have broadband in the 10.1 speed. I mean, don't even have, and some don't even have dial-up. So how do we solve that problem? The second is that kind of the category of who doesn't have the equipment to even connect. And that's something that we don't focus on as much at the FCC today. And then the third is, how do you deal with the affordability issue? And how do you deal, if you have broadband access, how can you afford to make it happen? And so those three issues matter to me. The COVID-19 didn't bring this issue upon us, but it's made it more prominent. You're more knowledgeable and very focused on a personal level. I'm in my bedroom making this call.
It's a very nice bedroom.
Technology works.
It's a very nice bedroom.
Very kind, very kind.
But I mean to zero in on this point, and I don't mean to be facetious, because I know that the internet infrastructure, the digital infrastructure out there, it's really a public-private partnership. Huge private investment. There are private firms. You guys set the rules and guidelines, but the money has to come from any number of sources. You do E-rate and whatnot. But right now, we're looking at trillions of dollars of money going into the U.S. economic system. Is enough of it going into this issue? Or should we call Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi and say, you know what, this is now the time to hook up those people that are not hooked up?
Well, look, I don't tell Congress what to do. I defer to them. There have been ideas and proposals in terms of new federal dollars to be invested. What I've said is if you are going to do that as a Congress, please consider using the FCC mechanisms, because while they're not perfect, you talked about E-rate and the others, they certainly have flaws. They are better than all the rest. And so I'd like to see if that be the option. But, to resolve these issues in a very quick time, it's going to take more than just money. It's going to take, a prayer, because investing takes time, and building out infrastructure, laying cable, connecting consumers takes time. I've been working at this at the FCC for 7 years, and we've shrunk the pool of those that don't have connectivity today, or that are missing it. And we still have more work to go, I admit, but it's not something you can just turn on overnight. And so if new federal dollars can certainly expedite things, I mean, could put it in perspective, we spend about $11 billion on USF, about 5 billion, just short of 5 billion is going to go to high cost. That was just short, about 3 billion should be in the E-rate program. So that's 11 billion. If someone were to put in, 100 billion, I've heard numbers of $140 billion to connect those the last 18 to 20 million people who don't have broadband. That's very expensive dollars, and that's something for Congress to consider.
Right. Now, Michael, I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but I'm not known necessarily for fair questions. So we see telehealth expanding. We see parents tutoring their children at home and becoming teachers, but lots of education going online. And I'm interested in what your role, what the FCC's role, essentially a rules maker, a regulator, and really a safeguard, is worried about as it's seen all this activity go on to the digital world.
Well, we have one component of that. Telehealth is so important, for instance, and we have a small piece of that. We have a program that helps invest dollars into making telehealth available in rural communities, and we've expanded it with new money from Congress. So we have a role. What worries me is all these different programs lying on top of each other, and really getting a solution and having some coordination over the system that we have investing, so we don't duplicate our dollars, so we don't waste the money that's being invested, to make sure that it actually does bring help that we expect it.
One last question for me, and then we're going to get a question from the audience. But
Sure.
I was just writing today about the 5G world and whether we're all going to fit into it. I mean, lots of cool things are going to come along in the 5G world. How worried are you about how we're going to get there? I mean, we see a lot of debate about Huawei, about other providers. I'm interested to know whether there is a pathway that we're going to come up with a 5G world, the one that we feel comfortable in and that's cool, but that's also safe, and that you're confident that we're going to be able to move in.
Well, absolutely. I think we're on the right path. The Commission has worked really hard to provide the environment for our private sector companies to compete and bring 5G to all Americans, whether it's providing more spectrum, dealing with the infrastructure issues, or any other problems that may be in play. So by by really moving aggressively in that front, we have set the stage for 5G to happen. There are certainly concerns. They always will be concerns and things that we have to fix. More spectrum is always going to be a problem, but we're doing our best at the Commission to make that happen. In terms of security, the industry is so focused on this. I was just tweeted about this matter because it's in the private sector standard-setting bodies that are focused on this and have been working on it for a number of years. It's not something, it's in their best interest, and they are fully committed to it. So I want to be careful about putting new rules from the FCC or other agencies on private sector who's working really hard on this matter.
Michael, I could talk to you forever, as you know. We've done that in the past. So, but we got a question from California.
Sure.
So great let's bring our question in from California.
Hi, my name's Marissa Calderon. I'm from San Diego, California, and my question is for FCC Commissioner O'Reilly. Back in 2015, you made a statement that internet access is not a necessity in the day-to-day lives of Americans, and that people can and do live without internet access, and many lead successful lives. Now, looking forward 5 years, here we are in 2020 in the midst of this current pandemic, and children need the internet to be able to go to school from their homes, and people who can work from homes require access to internet in order to contribute to society and continue doing so. I'd love if you could elaborate on your perspective then and how that may have evolved over the years to now, given our current situation.
Thank you, Marissa.
Sure.
Thank you. So, tough question. Have you evolved?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily, because it's really when it was questioned before, it was either a necessity or a luxury, right? And that universe had to fit in one of the two. I still view, and I answered this at the time, I view necessity of those things you can't live without. Clean water, housing, food, things of nature that you will not survive without. there are things that are so important, and I've mentioned as well. They're essential to life. They can be very vital to you doing well in our society. Things like transportation, things like the internet, things that can help and really improve and are more important now than ever before. But I still don't put them at that level of necessity. And I guess it's just a difference of definition of what I think is a necessity versus other people. It's still highest priority. You can look back to how many times I've talked about the importance of broadband.
Right.
It's not lost on me in this current situation.
Well, Michael, I want to thank you. I know how hard you work on these rules, on these questions of spectrum, of how we get communications right, and I've enjoyed our conversations in the past, and I did so today. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.